Hello, everyone. David here. Welcome back to the DGR podcast. I hope you are all doing well. I am sitting in my office on a nice October day. September is just over, and I'm going to record a solo pod for you guys. And I'm going to answer some questions. I put up a little Q&A on Instagram and last night, and I got probably over 100 questions, and some are suitable for the podcast. A lot are suitable for the podcast. Some I will try and answer on Instagram, and some I will answer here. So if you asked a question there and you're listening to the podcast and I didn't answer it, apologies. I just can't answer all of them, but I do appreciate you answering the question. So let me see some of the questions. One is a question about getting people back in the gait cycle and if that is the best way to restore mobility. So I will discuss that. One is about sensory work for the feet and how important that is. One is, are you still grappling? One is, are you dropping another program and what could it be? One is, why did you decide to join Twitter? And one is, do you ever gatekeep information on your Instagram so that you have content for elsewhere? So I think some good questions, a mix of movement-based stuff and some other stuff, and will be enough valuable content for all of you. So a little life update. You might have heard through the grapevine / my email newsletter / Instagram that Kira is pregnant. I won't say that we are pregnant. I think that's a bit of a weird thing to say. So Kira is pregnant, and we are expecting a baby in March, and I am thrilled. We are both absolutely over the moon. Very, very excited, a little bit nervous, I will say, but not too bad. I don't think I'm too bad about it. I'm actually not really nervous at all. I'm more like people are kind of congratulating, which is great, obviously, and almost celebrating, which is also great. But I'm more like I know that there can be obviously health complications and all this stuff along the way and blah, blah, blah. So touch wood here. But like, I feel like I can't really celebrate the thing as much until I have a baby in my hands. So there's kind of a slight conflict between being excited and also knowing that I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch type of thing. And also not being like weird or morbid about the thing either, just being kind of realistic. But the doctor the doctor that we have said that pregnancy and labor is for fit people. He said that to Kira, and she's been doing really well so far. And she's definitely fit, and she's been taking it all in her stride. So yeah, I'm just 98% excited, 2%, like 1% nervous about just making sure it all goes okay, and then not even 1% nervous about like the raising of the child. I won't say the raising. I mean, like, I know we'll figure that part out. Now, I do want to be a good dad, so that's another whole other topic that I haven't really even thought about that much, but I want to make sure I'm a good dad, and I probably have some shit that I need to figure out for myself before I can do that, or while I'm doing that. I don't want not that much shit to figure out, but like, I just don't want to have any baggage coming into fatherhood that is then being placed on top of a child that didn't sign up for that. So I want to make sure that like my mind is in a good place, our life is in a good place, our business, not a perfect place or anything, but everything is in a good place, so I can give a child the best possible, happiest, most fulfilling life that I possibly could, and be a good dad. And I think I will be a good dad. But yeah, I've spoken to Kira about potentially, she's kind of been on to me about potentially, well, we were speaking about this for several years actually, like potentially going and seeing a therapist or something, chatting about, I don't know, whatever, chatting about my emotions, because that might be a good idea. As someone who's not a particularly outrightly emotional person, it might be a good idea. But I have And actually, I've wanted to do that for several years myself. I've thought that that would be a good idea. I probably have some like garbage in my closet that I could do a clearing out, but at the same time, I I have a mental block about it because I know how crap the vast majority of therapists in our industry are and coaches in our industry are. Like genuinely, I think if you're someone who listens to this, you recognize that too, because you're actually one of the few people who is interested in improving yourself and doing a better job with your clients. Whereas and you might think that that is common in this industry, but it's really, really not. And yeah, I just can't see how it wouldn't be the same in an adjacent industry. Now, I know like the health and fitness industry is a bit more, it attracts more charlatans, of course, but I just can't see how it wouldn't be the same in that adjacent industry, in the therapy, like psychology, psychiatry industry, how there wouldn't be just loads and loads of people, a large percentage of people who just went for some reason, decided I'm going to get a degree in this, and yeah, I never really tried to get any better. I just kind of settled in, and this is what I did. And also in our industry, our health and fitness industry, there's so many people who just really do a bad job for their clients, and then there's a fair percentage that actively sabotage their clients. They want them to be in pain for a long time so that they keep coming back to see them, whether they're doing that consciously or subconsciously or unconsciously or whatever the word is. It depends on the person, I think, but like I imagine that's the case in that industry too, that they want you to kind of get short-term benefits but never actually figure things out so that you keep coming back to see them and paying them more money. So like I do have a mental block around that. So I would be semi-open to going to see someone and chatting about it, because I think it's probably a good idea for me and probably most Irish men who are, I don't know, traumatized by, I don't know, years and years of just getting on with things and pretending things are fine and never talking about anything. So I think that would be a good idea, but I would like to get a recommendation from for someone first and not for a Zoom call, because that's what I do all day. So it would have to be someone local. So if you're someone local and you know someone that would be good to talk to, then let me know. Um, so yeah, that's going to be the pregnancy coming in March. So we have a lot of things to do before then. I just said I'd update you a little bit. We have where our premises currently is actually, whether you notice, some of you might notice, some of you might not, but I have at the very start of COVID, out the back of my dad's house, we have he had stables here that there hadn't been a horse in 10 years previous to that, and there was stables and a garage, a double garage, and we took half of his garage and the 4 stables. So he went from having 4 stables and a double garage to half a garage, and we took the rest, and we converted it all, and we did a really nice job. But he actually has just gone sale agreed on his house, and we've been paying him rent, by the way. We paid for all this and we've been paying him rent all along. But he's just gone sale agreed on his house, which means that we are going to be kicked out very, very soon by the looks of things. Probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks, 3 to 6 weeks, I would say. So we need to find a new premises, and I think it's put pressure on us. Like not the worst ever, because we can obviously take clients online or take all of our, just move to purely online for a couple of months if we need to, an extra couple of months if we need to. But it's just the whole thing of like having a professional outfit where we can have our office and not be doing things at home and blah, 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 blah. And also this has made me think about potentially just potentially pushing on a little bit in our business, and probably the location that we were in and the fact that we were in this really nice gym and really nice premises out the back of my dad's house, it probably made me purposefully keep our in-person stuff a bit smaller, and it's made me kind of potentially think about, could we scale that up just a little bit? So I just went to see a couple of premises the other day, and one of them wasn't right. One of them could be right. I'm going back to see it again tomorrow, and it's going to be quite a big place, place for a nice big long gym space, and then potential for some offices. And what I've been thinking about doing is potentially thinking about hiring in our network, or someone that I know, is super interested in our work. There's a few different potential hires that I could make next. Whether I don't know if you're interested in hearing this, but I'm going to say it anyway. So I think the one that would move the needle the most revenue wise would be social media slash content manager. So I'm thinking about trying to hire a content manager. Now, this wouldn't be someone that's like just gone to college and just done like digital marketing or something like that. Not that it could be that type of person, but like it also could just be a younger person who really likes content and knows how to make good content and is relatively organized, and they don't even have to have any experience whatsoever really in working in an organization. They just have to be intelligent and semi-relentless, I would say. They're my two criteria, probably. Like a certain level of intelligence, which you just can't really teach, a certain level of cop on, and then a certain level of like relentlessness or perseverance would be quite good. So one potential hire could be a social media manager, which would look after, or we have a Spanish Instagram account now. We're going to try and grow that. We have our own Instagram account. We have our DGR education Instagram account. I just set up a Twitter account. We have my Instagram account, if I mentioned that or not. We have the podcast. I'm going to try and grow on YouTube. And then we have our newsletter. So they would just, like, not that I wouldn't do any of that. I would still do a lot of that stuff. I can't outsource the content because it's built off the back of me more than anything else, but they would help me a lot with that and help me film it a little bit and stuff like that. So that would be one potential hire that we could consider making. The other one would be revenue wise. I think that would be the most important one, because at the moment, over the last 3 years, every time I've put out more content, and more doesn't mean like more crappy content, it means more good content. Every time I put out more good content, we've made more money off the back of that, directly or indirectly. So yeah, that would be the best play revenue wise, I think. Then I have potential to I've been thinking about potentially pushing on the coaching side of things. So I would think about potentially hiring an S&C coach that would be good and happy and knows our work quite well, to work with us and to start to take on online clients where they can do programming based on, like, obviously their thoughts and my thoughts, and just being a really good S&C that blends all of this nice work. So we could potentially take on online clients for people that are like have done our programs or want more bespoke work, but it's not rehab. It's like they're ready to push on, they're ready to lift heavier and sprint and jump and all these things, and yeah, on an ongoing basis. So I would think about taking on an S&C that would do some online clients, that would do some in-person clients potentially within the gym, and then that would do, I could potentially bring out or expand a little bit more into some of the, just like get some force plates and stuff like that, and we could have some in-person testing then, and different things like that. So in-person clients, maybe even like semi-PT if they wanted to do a little bit in the gym as well. So that's the other option. And then the third option would be to take on a physio, which could take on clients in person within the gym. I could build in a little clinic room for them, and they could take on clients under our brand, and we could try and build up that side of things for the in-person coaching. And then they could see some online clients online, of course, as well, because we already have Alice doing that, and her schedule is always pretty full up. Like, she's always has, basically, when clients book in with Alice, they like to keep booking in with Alice because she's so good and she doesn't have that many slots available online. So we could potentially go that way with things. So yeah, I think having a more professional space that's in a business park, that's there, that has a gym, that has a few offices where we have me and Kira, and then a or a content and media person, where we have another and then one other coach, like either an SNC or a physio, or maybe both potentially at some stage. But that's what I'm thinking about the premises, to push more on that side of things. Now, I don't know if I will do all of that or any of that, but that's where my mind is at the moment. So yeah, I think it's been a good thing that we have to leave this space, just because it's forced me to think about that more deeply. So at the moment, I suppose if I break down our business a little bit, we have a few different parts to it. We have, and this was kind of happened by accident, but really I think, like, we have our coaching business, which is one-to-one work with me, one-to-one work with Alice, either in person or online. Just online with Alice, and a little bit of in person with me, and a little bit of online with me. So we've that. We have our e-commerce business, which is selling programs to people online. And only recently did I really decide in my own mind that did I actually realize that this is a proper e-commerce business that we have. It's not, it's still coaching, like you're buying DIY programs, but we kind of need to treat that like e-commerce, and all the things that are involved in running an e-commerce business. And then we have the third arm of the business, which is the education side of things, which is DGR Interactive, which is our workshops, and which is our mentorship that is going to be coming soon. And then, so we have the coaching side, we have the e-commerce side, and then we have the education side. So there's three arms, and above all of those is a media company, really, that the content is what drives each of those things. And at the moment, none of those three things are being fulfilled or being reaching their potential, because I'm working on all three of those separately, kind of separately, even though they do obviously bleed into each other. But I'm working on all three of those separately. And so it might be time to build one more than the others, or it might be time to, I don't know, everyone always says, like, really push on one side of it. And I think we could, I don't know, I haven't figured out exactly what way we should do it. I know what way I should go, if it's purely revenue that's in my mind, but in the shorter term and medium term at least. But in the longer term, I think we can potentially make the most of all three, and all of that is underpinned by good media, good content, which draws people to our work, hopefully, like you guys listening, who haven't hopefully turned off this episode yet. So yeah, that's how I've been thinking about it. That's the premises that I need to try and get. And that's, I'm not saying I will do all that stuff immediately, but at least the premises could offer the potential, the opportunity to push in those directions. So yeah, that's that. And that's because that is selling the house, that's forced us to start to look. So yeah, I'll go back and view that place tomorrow, and we will see. I think it has potential, but it would need a decent bit of work to be done to it. And I just don't want to sign a lease that is too short or too long. I'm trying to figure that out. So that's one thing. The other thing is we need to find a new house, me and Kira, because whether you know it or not, we work in stables and we live in stables. So over in Kira's house, out the back of her house, you're going to think like we're all like rich people with loads of horses and stuff. Neither of us have horses in either of these stables, or had any time recently at all. So at the back of her house, there was stables that were there that used to be used. And just before COVID, or just at the start of COVID, or just before COVID, I think we moved in, we renovated stables out the back of her house in her yard, and we moved in there. So we have a very small little 1-bedroom apartment, which is actually has been amazing. This is coming up to our 4th year, I think, in them. So it has been it was definitely a good investment wise to pay for that and to build that, which I think cost about 30 or maybe 40 grand even at the time. But 4 years later, we would have definitely paid at least that and a lot more in rent. And we are still there. So that's been a very good little investment for us and a very nice little home. But unfortunately, it won't be big enough to have a baby in. We would either have to choose between the baby and Roxy, and that choice wouldn't go down well. So it yeah, we're going to have to find a new house as well by the time March comes around. So I need a new premises and a new house by the time March comes around. And that's going to be an interesting few months because I've been putting off everything on the real estate side of things, both commercial and private or residential real estate. And I was thinking about for a while, like getting into an investment property and blah, 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 blah. And like now I'm forced to do something on this side of things. So I'm going to have to learn very quickly, which is usually the way that I like to learn. So let's see how that figures out. Okay, sorry, that was like a 20-minute ramble about my life. So hopefully either you're still with me or you're gone. If you're still with me, here is the first question. Do you think getting people back in the gait cycle is the best way to restore mobility? So this is a topic that's spoken about a lot. I've spoken about a little bit. When this person says back in the gait cycle, like I know what they mean, and it is in the gait cycle, you need to hopefully be able to really access early stance, mid stance, and late stance. So you transition through the phases, and that helps you to access all of the joint motions that your body needs, basically. So you're going to be traveling through those phases. You're going to be traveling through, if you do them quite well, hip flexion, hip extension, hip internal rotation, external rotation, adduction, and abduction. So you're going to be traveling through all of these motions, maybe not at the very end range, but through a nice enough range that you keep that joint healthy, let's say, and all of your joints healthy. And when this person says getting people back, what they mean is that, well, I'm going to presume what they mean is that like people race through the gait cycle. Maybe they get to late stance very early, and so they start to miss some of those joint articulations. And then when they meet a coach or a physio, the coach or the physio or movement professional says, oh, like you are very tight. You need to stretch more to get back your mobility or something like this. And which could be the case, of course, but actually a lot of the time, when they go and walk, which could be 10,000 steps of the day, they're not accessing the joint movements when they go and move. So giving them 2 sets of 5 of a little stretch, probably 2 sets of 5 or 2 sets of 10 or 20 reps or a 30-second hold of a stretch really isn't going to do it, because the reason they're losing their mobility is it's a movement pattern problem. So do you think that getting people back in the gait cycle is the best way? And just to, when people race into late stance very early, they're going to lock up, because that's where you're pushing off. That's where like you need the other leg to come forward. That's where if you even stand up and lean forward, you'll feel a lot more muscular activation when you start to come towards the front of your feet, because your calves and your feet and your hips and your back extensors all are fighting to hold you up at that stage to stop you from falling over. And if they're on all of the time, because you're always kind of half falling over or racing forward a lot with your body, then you're going to have a ton of muscular tension, and excessive muscular tension is going to limit your mobility. So you could say, okay, we need to stretch these muscles so that you have less muscular tension. Or you could say, actually, we just need to help you move in a way that is going to help your muscles and joints move through more range just when you go and move, so that you're not carrying all this tension all of the time. You're moving from eccentric to concentric to eccentric to concentric. So the muscle is starting to go through range rather than just being like on all the time, let's say. So with all that said, do you think getting people back in the gait cycle is the best way to restore mobility? Yes and no. So I don't like the conversation too much around getting people back in the gait cycle, because this isn't what is actually happening to people. In terms of like what people are saying isn't what's happening to people. They're saying that they can only access late stance or something. I don't think that's the case. Like, how could that be the case? Everyone is accessing a version of early stance and a version of mid stance and a version of late stance. So if you focus on getting them back and doing breathing drills into the back of the rib cage and all of this stuff and shifting all their weight back into their heels, that will restore mobility in the short term, I think. In the very short term, like a massage would, like any other types of modalities to help restore mobility. Like, that will work, and maybe a little bit better than some of those modalities sometimes. But the reason that someone loses mobility or loses motion is because, if you're saying it's because they race to late stance, then getting them back isn't the answer. It's giving them a different way to move forward is the answer, I would say. So if someone always extends through their back and is very compressed through the back of the rib cage, if you even squeeze your shoulder blades back together now, you'll hopefully feel how that pushes your chest forward. Sorry, I need to cough. Have a drink of water. So when you squeeze your shoulder blades back, that pushes your chest forward. So if you're someone who is always closed off on the back of the rib cage, that's pushing your chest forward. And now you're saying, okay, you need to do breathing drills into the back of the rib cage. But it's not a... And that can definitely help. And I use that stuff. So I don't want to say that it won't help. But what you're seeing is their way of moving forward in space. This is an overall body strategy that they use to move forward in space. And probably if you strip this a layer back, which was, okay, you're really compressed through your back, and if you just say 1 + 1 = 2, as in you're really compressed through your back, so I need to open up your back. Yes, that could be an option. But if you say you're really compressed through your back and you're using your back for propulsion, the logical next thing to say is not, I'm going to open up your back with breathing drills. The logical next thing to say is, why are you compressing through your back all of the time? And so that leads you to a different conclusion, which isn't, I just need to open up your back. The conclusion might be, you are using your back to push you forward, or as propulsion, because you can't use your hips for that. You are extending through your back because you can't extend through your hip. You are extending through your back to go forward because you can't flex your knee instead. You are extending through your back because you can't dorsiflex your ankle. And usually it's a combination of all those things. So I don't think the emphasis on getting people back in the gait cycle is the right way to think about it. I think the emphasis should be on, how do you improve how people move forward in the gait cycle? Because there is no back. Back doesn't really exist in propulsion. You can do backwards drills, you can do sled drags, you can do plyometrics going backwards. I do all of this stuff. You can do backwards walking, you can do backwards, I don't know, a million drills that focus on getting you back. But ultimately, 99% of our life is lived where we're moving forward or laterally, which you still need to think of laterally as moving forward, really, because I won't get into that. That's a whole other conversation. But forward and laterally are going to be very similar. Backwards is the mechanics of forwards and laterally in terms of what the shin is doing and all this stuff is the same. The mechanics of moving backwards is the opposite. So 99% of our lives is going to be lived where we're having to move forwards and up, or forwards and down, or forwards and sideways. So you have to improve how people move forwards in space, not just focusing on getting them back in the gait cycle. So getting them back in the gait cycle, helping them better access early stance, potentially on mid stance, could be part of your overall plan to say, okay, I do need to open up the back of this rib cage. I do need to stop that pelvis going forward all of the time. But I would say that's like the first rung on the ladder. And then all the other rungs are, I need to help people not need to, like, if this, I'm saying, if this is the person that you're talking about, it's not everyone, it's not everyone doesn't need to do this, but if it's the right person, then the first rung on the ladder might be, okay, I will get them back a little bit, maybe. I still don't think about it that way. And then all the other rungs is, I'm going to improve how they move forward. And I think a lot of the people that are doing breathing drills and rolling on the floor for every single drill, the reason you have to keep doing that is because they have to keep bringing their clients back, because every time they come back in to see them, they see that they are now, oh shit, you've lost all that movement again. You keep going forward too fast. You keep compressing the back of your body. You keep falling forward, and now your body has to squeeze and grip. So bringing them back might be one part of it, but the thing that actually keeps them transitioning through the gait cycle better is improving how they move forward. So I hope that part makes sense. Hey guys, just a super quick break from the show. I just wanted to tell you that for our foot, ankle, and Achilles program, we actually just added a bonus section to it. So there's already 4 phases worth of foot and lower leg training. It shows you the exact step-by-step system that I use with all my lower leg and foot clients. And then we had a couple of people asking a little bit around big toe stuff, about improving flexion, extension, and strength around the big toe and the forefoot in general. So I added in a bonus big toe awakening sequence there as well. So for those of you who've already bought it, the 3,000 almost now, you'll see that bonus at the at the end of the whole program. So there's the education, the 4 phases, the plyometric work, and then you'll see the bonus at the bottom. For those of you who haven't got it yet, same for you. So make sure you jump on it. We'll put the link in the show notes, and you won't regret it. It's been our most popular by a mile program so far, and I absolutely am very proud of it. So check out the foot, ankle, and Achilles program in the show notes. I do think that is a really important thing to understand, and I think that I would say almost no one does that well. And all of the talk around the gait cycle stuff that you see nowadays is about bringing them back, and it is way less important than teaching people how to move forward better. So yeah, way less important. So that's my answer there. Second question. In phase 1 and 2 of the foot program, you emphasize sensory work. Is it the sense that is driving changes, or is it the new movement we are using? It's a good question. So if you haven't done the foot program and you don't want to do it, but that's fine. But there's a YouTube video on this where I talk about the phases, which you can, if you type into YouTube, foot and Achilles program, understanding the training phases, that should bring up my video. And in that video, I talk about like sensory work is phase 1, not just sensory work. Let me see what I have written down for phase 1. So I have phase 1, sensory foot function and soleus connection. That's phase 1. So I have, so in fairness to the question, you're saying, is it sense or new movement? Well, I have both there in phase 1, sensory and foot function, and then soleus connection as well, which you'll all have felt if you've done it, this disgusting soleus connection. So is it the sense that is driving changes, or is it the new movements that we're doing? It's both, right? So I would say in those drills, let's say those pronation drills that we're using, pronation and supination drills, we're doing both in those drills. Let's just focus on those for a second. So you'll see me maybe use a sock under the medial arch in those. I think I have that in the program. You'll see me use a sock sometimes with clients. You will hear my voice. Obviously, if you're listening to the videos, you'll hear me using words like feel and sense and pressure and describing different parts of your foot. So I am using my words as you're moving to drive your awareness into different parts of your foot. So that is sense that I'm trying to, as soon as I ask a question in this instance, do you feel the inside of your heel? Your brain is going to that area. It needs to answer that question. Do I feel the inside of my heel? So the question is, do you feel the inside of your heel? Your brain has to go to that area to answer the question. It can't not. So you'll hear me use my voice and my words in a way that is driving sense a lot of the time, and forcing you to sense things. Not forcing, directing you to hopefully sense things. So without the sense, I don't think we're going to get the movement that we want. And without the movement that we want, I don't think we're going to get the senses that we want from it. So these two things have to work together, because if, for instance, speed of movement in these drills are really important. If you're going too fast through these drills, and you're someone who really doesn't access your midfoot particularly well, and this goes back to the last question around giving people a better way to move forward, not just bringing them back, improving how they move forward. So if they don't really access their midfoot that well, then we can keep doing the movement, but if they're going too fast, they won't have a chance to sense the changes in pressure in their foot. And if they can't sense the changes in pressure in their foot, the changes in pressure probably won't happen in their foot, because they already don't have access to that movement. So this is where, if we can slow down the movement, then we have the chance to sense different areas, because time is important when we're trying to sense things. This is why isometrics can be very valuable when you're working on feeling, in not just in lower, like slow, gentle drills like this, but also in a leg extension, isometric for your patellar tendon. You can get a chance to learn and feel how to recruit more quadricep fibers as you hold it. The weight is teaching you that, the position is teaching you that, and your intention and your sense is teaching you that. And that might sound funny, but if you're someone who's ever had pain in your patellar tendon, you will understand a lot of pain, or in any tendon, you will understand that how important or how hard it can be to actually get that muscle to recruit really, really well. Or pain, not just in your patellar tendon, in your joint, in your knee, or your Achilles, it can be very hard to really recruit that soleus. That's why, again, in the foot program, we have phase 1, sense, foot function, and soleus connection. So yeah, if we can, I've gone all over the shop there. So if we can slow down the movement, we get a chance to sense different areas of pressure in the foot and how the pressure shifts. And now, as we sense how the pressure shifts, it starts to shift differently, because we're paying attention to that area. So the speed of movement changes the sense of movement, which then changes the speed, which then changes the mechanics of the movement. So it's both. It has to be both. That's why I will talk about the speed of the movement. I will talk about where you need to feel the pressure. I will talk about how to do the movement. And this is why reps of this movement are really important, like doing a decent few reps, but also why doing good quality reps is important, because if you just race through these movements, you're going to just do them how you always do them, and you won't improve the sense, and you won't improve the movement. You won't change the sense, you won't improve the movement. So something like a sock, all it's doing, that's the really interesting thing. Something like a sock, that's why I would use that, and I started using that a lot more instead of wedges. Wedges is using a wedge to force a movement. It's saying, force might be a strong word, but to direct the movement. So I'm putting in a wedge here on the outside of your foot, so that you kind of are forced to push towards the medial aspect of your foot a little bit more. I would rather use a sock on the inside and say, okay, as you bring your knee forward, I'm asking you a question. Can you feel more of the sock as you come forward? And now, can you feel less of the sock as you come back out? So if the answer is yes, I can feel more, then that means the movement is happening and the sense is increasing as I do it. Whereas if I just use a wedge, you could get the movement without the increase in sensation because you're just kind of forced into that position. Now, obviously, there's going to be an increase in sensation to some degree, but I don't think it's the same. So, I would say, is what's driving the changes? Is it the sense or is it the new movement? In those drills, it has to be together. It's both. And in a lot of drills, even at high speed, when I was over with Jonas in Loughborough, like he was doing speed drills, and a huge part of his coaching was about feel. And like he didn't say that explicitly, but I could just notice how much he was using the not just their word feel, but different words to drive sense and feeling into the athlete so that they could hopefully then take that with them in running. So I know like running drills and sprinting drills get bashed these days because these don't exactly mimic the mechanics of your sprinting, but you can take a feeling of something in it from a drill and try and take that with you then into another movement. It doesn't have to exactly mimic it. It could just be enough to give you a feeling of what you're looking for. So sense, I think, is really important. Feeling, I think, is really important. Awareness, I think, is really important. So hopefully that answers that question. So that's the gait cycle and restoring mobility one. That is the sensory one from the foot program. You should check out the foot program, by the way. Are you still grappling? Yes, I am. I was grappling last night. I haven't done as much. I didn't do as much over the summer because I started playing a lot more tennis, and I kind of hurt my meniscus a little bit, which I think I have a little tear in anyway, regardless, or had. But yeah, I kind of tweaked it a little bit, and then when I was getting into a deep position, it was catching me quite a bit, and it didn't feel like. Yeah, I knew it was going to be fine. I knew it was going to be absolutely fine. So I just needed a little bit of time to give that a chance, and it was absolutely fine. Like playing tennis, sprinting, change of direction, doing plyos and stuff like that. But just when I was getting into that deep position, super deep end range flexion, it was kind of catching me. So I needed to give that a little break. And also, it wasn't. Oh, sorry, my headphones just plugged out. 1 sec. Let me check if that is back. Microphone, speaker. Yeah. Oh, microphone, speaker, external headphones. Okay, hopefully I'm back. So it wasn't just that. It was also when I tweaked that meniscus in medial meniscus, I also got this I was getting this pain in the posterior lateral corner of the knee. So, and that can be, for anyone who's had that before, that can be a weird feeling. And I felt a bit unstable actually, even playing tennis for the first couple of weeks after that happened. Change of direction. My tibia felt like it was not shifting forward and back, but like there was a little bit more rotation there than there should have been at higher speed. So, yeah, I gave jiu-jitsu a break for a little while, and I've gotten back into it, and yeah, it's good. I've learned to just get more stubborn, which helps me. Where before, like if someone really wanted to sweep me and I felt like I wasn't in that much of a strong position, I would kind of let them do it. Um, Maybe because I was a bit more fearful of injury or something like that. Whereas now I'm just like, nah, I'm just a bit more stubborn with things, and it's made me feel more like I would have in other sports where I'm like, nah, I'm going to try and be the boss here rather than just being dictated to all the time. So yeah, grappling jiu-jitsu has been good, very enjoyable, and yeah. Now, the issue is because I took that break, all the people that started at the same time as me are now better than me. So that's a bit shit, but at least I can beat up the newbies a little bit for the next week until they get better than me also. Okay, so next question from Jacob. Do you ever gatekeep information on your Instagram so you have content that you can offer on DGRI or in-person seminars? Good question, Jacob, my friend. No, not really. I don't really. And I think this question applies to everyone. Like everyone has this question with their own content. How much free information should I give out? I get that question all the time, and this is another version of that. So, do you gatekeep info so that you have content then that you can offer on DGRI or in-person seminars? So, basically, like for me, the question there from Jacob is, do you do you give it all away for free, or do you keep some content so that people pay for it? And everyone has that question, because do you give it away for free, or do you make your clients pay for your programming or to come in to see you or whatever? So I don't really gatekeep info. The platform kind of does that for me automatically, if you think about it, because when I post on Instagram, the way the platform is designed, I can only post a certain amount of detail on a post before that post gets lost in translation or gets too long or too detailed or whatever. It just doesn't allow you to go into a lot of detail. So the platform gatekeeps it for me. Then when people are interested, they come. Let's say they're like, okay, I see that there's value in this content, and I want to learn more. So they buy a program, let's say, then they use that program. The program, I'm not gatekeeping information on the program. I had to try and design my programs in a way that's like, okay, how do I deliver on the outcome that I have promised, which is whatever, lower body basics, improve your lower body strength, coordination, and mobility in 20 minutes a day type of thing. So like, I can only put a certain amount of information. If you put too much information in that, people won't do any of it. So I can only put so much information in there. So the program them that they buy is kind of gate kept because it's for a specific thing. So then someone listens to a podcast and I can talk in more detail about certain topics, but I can't go into, I don't have a visual aid. Obviously, you can watch it on YouTube, but I'm not showing you videos of my clients, and I'm not explaining in as much detail certain topics because I would rather refer you to DJ Interactive, one, because you pay me, but not because I'm gatekeeping on the podcast, but because on DJ Interactive, I know who's watching those videos. They're coaches and therapists, and they've come in there, and I can also reference other videos on the site, and I can show you my clients, and I can use a visual aid, and I can for rewind and slow down movement and all this stuff. So the podcast information is being naturally gate kept, but I'm still always trying to answer the question that is on my mind or someone has asked in the best way possible. On Instagram, when I do a post, I'm not trying to hide information. I'm thinking about what's the right information to present in this context. I'm not trying to hide it. So that's the same with the podcast. That's the same with DJ Interactive. That's the same with a workshop. That's the same when we do a mentorship. And I have a lot to say about things. Whether you agree with me or not, that's fine. That's a different question. But I do have a very well developed thought process. Not fully developed, not perfect. I don't mean anything like that. But when you ask me about an exercise that I'm doing with a client, I can give you the history. If I wanted to, I could give you the history of that exercise, which is the reason I do this position, this in this way is for X, Y, and Z reasons. Then the reason I might actually tweak it in this way and turn the pelvis that way is for these reasons. The reason I might take the heel off versus the heel down. This exercise is a really nice regression for this type of movement. And here's the end movement that we're working towards. So I have a lot to say. And if people feel like that's valuable, they can't ever piece that together on Instagram. So it's naturally being gate kept, and yeah, I don't have to try to do that. It's just naturally happens in that way for me, and I think it will naturally happen in that way for all of you and everyone listening as well. If you give away free information, like, you basically can give away pretty much everything that you do, and it's going to be gate kept. Even if that's not the right word, it's going to be not implemented at all by certain people, and it's going to be semi-implemented by others, but who don't fully understand it, or who can't piece it together properly, or don't know how it fits in the whole, or it's going to be, even if it was implemented really well for by people, actually what you'll find is they are going to want even more to give you money, and even more want to work with you, because the law of reciprocity is telling them, without them knowing it, like, I'm getting value from this person, I need to give something back. So I do gatekeep information on from Instagram for DJR Interactive and in-person seminars, but not because I'm trying to hold things back from people, but because it's not the right place to deliver that information, I would say. I hope that kind of makes sense. And I have a lot to say. And even if there is some people who, I think they think they're winning by like seeing a lot of my information and not coming to a workshop and not doing a mentorship. And honestly, that's absolutely fine. I would prefer if they gave me money, of course, and I prefer if they credited me for the information that they're taking directly from it. But they they are probably the ones that don't realize that they're getting like a small piece of the picture, not because I'm holding back, but because it would be genuinely, it would be pretty much impossible for people to get an idea of everything we do and why we do it and how we progress it and where it all fits in and how we speak to our clients and why we use certain exercises for our client. Like, it's very well thought out. And again, it might be wrong, but I've thought about this stuff for 10 years. So it absolutely might be wrong, my thoughts on it. But there is reasons why I place an exercise first in a program versus second in a program that goes far beyond like S&C type of like, oh, this exercise potentiates that exercise. It goes far beyond that. It's about the psychology of what order people will enjoy doing the exercises in. And I'm not saying I'm the only one. There's like any good coach is doing this, but yeah, it exercise certain exercises might seem like weird exercises to choose sometimes, but then when you see what they're working towards, they actually make a ton of sense. Certain exercises, like I spoke about earlier, like more sensory aspects, they all filter into other things. So we have a very well developed model that cannot be communicated on Instagram. And so that's naturally being gate kept anyway. And again, I think I mentioned this like on a podcast recently, I think, where I spoke about Alice working with us for like, how long was it, Alice? Not that you're here beside me, but like, is it 2 years now? I don't know. But like every time we have a conversation, she learns more about the the why behind the why, let's say. So she knows why to do a certain exercise, and she knows really well, like when we were over with Jonas again, like I was doing certain things and she could see, like, obviously, it was almost like I could see obviously that you were going to do that type of movement, or why would you cue it in that way. But sometimes we have conversations around like why that is the case, why we would even do that, not why we would choose that exercise for that person, but why I came to that conclusion in the first place, like several years ago, when there's a course that I learned that teaches the exercise in a different way, or the intention in a different way. So yeah, I think the information is naturally being gatekept, and you just couldn't learn a model like that, or any good model. I don't mean mine. You just can't learn that on Instagram. So if you feel, I don't mean you, Jacob, but I mean you in general, if you feel like you're afraid to give out free information because people are going to take it, then my question to you would be, how well developed is your model? Because if your model is that shallow that people can actually learn it and take it from Instagram, then it's not well developed. Because if it was well developed, they could learn stuff. And even I believe that our free content is far better than 90%, and you'll get far better results with your clients than 95% of the courses that you go to in the industry. And we've been told this hundreds and probably thousands of times from people, that when they implement their content, their clients get better results and that they enjoy doing their job better, more than 10 years of going to other courses and stuff like this. So if you feel like you're afraid to put out free content, I think your model is not well developed. Because if it was, then putting out free content, it would be a drop in the ocean from what people could potentially learn from you. And if you're afraid that maybe you're afraid that actually all you have to offer people is that drop in the ocean, then that is something that you need to be worried about and that you want to make sure you're developing. But I would still give away that drop in the ocean. I would still put that out there, but just in a way that's suited for the platform, which still gatekeeps that drop in the ocean. It's still naturally gatekept by the fact that Instagram doesn't allow you to go into much detail. And for good reason. It's not made for that. So yeah, all these things are different. They're just different experiences. Instagram content is a different experience for people than DGR Interactive, where they can watch videos and rewind and reference other videos and go into other things. In-person seminars, I can't touch you, or you can't touch someone else and coach someone else on Instagram. And then in a mentorship, you can't get 12 weeks or 10 weeks or whatever we're going to do, however length we're going to do it, where it's like a semi-intense 10 weeks of studying with us where you can ask questions. So naturally, the platform gatekeeps the information. So I hope that kind of answers that question. And it is a really important question. And again, one last time, if you're afraid to put out free content, how much value do you actually have? Because maybe that free content that you're putting out, maybe your work doesn't go deeper than that. And if that's the case, you need to learn more, because it should go deeper. Someone shouldn't be able to get even 1% of what you think about things on Instagram, even if you posted every day for 10 years. If I posted every day for 10 years, people wouldn't get anywhere close to all the things I think about movement. And I'm not saying I'm special. I'm saying everyone should be like that, because you have a well-developed, and maybe a lot of people are like that, because you have a well-developed thought process and model. So yeah, hope that answers that one, Jacob. Okay, I have one last question. Why did you join Twitter? I joined Twitter because, like I said at the start, around the media company, it's time for us to start, around the social media person, it's time for us to start to treat our coaching business, our e-commerce business, and our education businesses, which I kind of started to view as separate. It's time for us to start to think about those as, a media company is overarching all of these, and a media company wouldn't be just an Instagram post. It would have Twitter, and we're also going to start to do proper YouTube videos, not just putting up the podcast. So I want to start to diversify out, but I don't want myself to have to do all that. So that's why I want to hire. So I think doing a little bit on Twitter, it won't take long. I just put up a post there, or like a little mini 3-post thread on Twitter. It took me 10 minutes. So I think it could be a nice, quick way of connecting with a new audience potentially, or even a current audience in a slightly different way. YouTube, I've been bullish about YouTube for many years now. I think it's going to continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And Instagram and whatever other platforms you may lose them. They may go down. They may be replaced. I just don't see YouTube for the next couple of decades. I think it's going to become an even bigger monster if you look at how kids are consuming, or younger generations are consuming content now. And I want us to be part of that. And I've put off Twitter, I've put off YouTube for 3 years now, in terms of like properly having a little plan around it. And now I think is the right time. Although now is probably also a terrible time, because I have a baby coming in March and I could be just completely stretching myself too much. But yeah, I'm going to give it a little bit of a blast and see how it goes. So make sure you follow me over there. Okay, so that was the gatekeeping, that was grappling, that was the sensory, that was gate cycle, that was Twitter. Other question, when are you dropping your next program and what could it be? I won't be dropping another program, I don't think. I've thought about it. I was going to do like a I was going to do like a strength and plyometric type of program, but that was before we did the foot one, so we did the foot one instead, and then I'm going to do the mentorship starting hopefully in January instead. So that's going to be my next program, but that's more on the education side of the business. So we're off to America now. Today is Tuesday. You're probably listening to this on a Thursday. We're off to America on a Thursday. We're going to go and meet with, hopefully do a podcast with Andy Chen in New York City. We have a podcast that we have already recorded with Peter Wright, PT Performance, that's going to come up. So there's a couple of really nice guest episodes coming up for you guys. And then we're going to go to teach a workshop in New York, teach a workshop in Washington, D.C., come home, and then we're going to go to Verona and teach a workshop there. And with the guys in Magnitudo training. So 3 sold out workshops coming up. That's the last ones of the year. And now you know why I said there was going to be not too many workshops next year, because I'm going to be a daddy. So thank you very much for listening. I will chat to you guys when I chat to you. Hopefully we'll have a guest episode next week. And don't forget, join DJR Interactive. The content has been absolutely popping there recently. So we've had the best. We have 200 hours of content on biomechanics and movement and rehab and training and guest lectures and everything. But over the last, I would say, 2 months, there's been case studies from me looking at different movements. There's been guest presentations. There's been just top class content that you can learn either 10 minutes a week. Some people do 10 minutes a day. And I have a biomechanics 101 course that I added there as well, which has 13 key biomechanics lessons for you to start off with when you first join. So we'll put the link in the bio for all that stuff. I'm going to ask you once just on this podcast, can you drop me a little bit of feedback on it? Because I know I ramble all over the place, but send me a message on Instagram or an email or something like that, please, or on Twitter maybe, and let me know what you thought of it, because I would. I'm just going to ask you. I don't ask much for feedback on the podcast, but if you could please give me a bit of feedback, that would be good. Okay, good to talk to you guys. Chat to you next time.